So the first device I came up with was what is called the VME, or the Vortex Magnetic Energizer. So I found a place called BEST, Bioenergetic Screening Team in Seattle, Washington. I arranged an appointment. I went into BEST. I brought one of 2-liter bottles of water with me. I went to sit down and do the test. The water was sitting on a desk behind me about 6 to 7 feet away. And this woman, Patricia, who was going to do the test, I said, Patricia, you know, I just mainly want to do a before and after test. And I said, my grandmother friend claims actually the energy of this water, after it's been energized, goes out approximately 15 feet. So I would like you, it's possible we need to move this bottle of water farther away from me on my first test of before and after. Patricia leaves the office, comes back in with a set of dowsing rods. She's about 6 feet away from the water, and the rods swing out. She stands back another 5, 6 feet, the rods swing out. She's out about 15 feet out right at the door of this office, and the rods just slowly swing out. They did swing out, but slowly. So she says, you have 15 feet of energy coming off of this water. She takes the water and takes it out of the office that we're going to do the test. We now sit down and do a test. Basically, this device shows you where you're high or where you're low. You should be hitting 50 is where you want to be. I had a high mercury content in my body. It was up to 80, 90%. I had some good conditions with my lungs. I had, overall, I wasn't doing too bad, but I had many numbers that were down in the 30s and 40s, and some of them in the 70s, 80s, and even up to 90. And ideally, we want 50. This means you're balanced. So she now goes out, gets the bottle of water. I go to drink the water. She says, no, you don't even need to drink it. Just put it between your legs and hold on to it with your legs, in between your legs. She actually, with the device, well, I won't go into the detail of how it works, but she does the second test. The second test clearly reveals something phenomenal. And she looks over at me with her eyes big as saucers. Where did you get this water? And I said, well, I made it in my garage. I'm not really telling a lot of people right now how I make it, but I said, why? Why do you ask? She said, she prints out the computer printout. She explains to me all about how this device works. She shows me where I was at right around 90, like a mercury, and it had brought me down real close to 50. She said, this is what I do for a living. I find out where people are out of homeostasis, and I bring them back into homeostasis through vibration, through energy. Your water just did that. I could have people just pack this water around to help them stay energetically in balance. She said, would you sell me this water? And I said, well, I'll give you the bottle of the water. You can keep it. The next day, another man in this office calls me, Dr. Flynn. He's a part of this BEST Bioenergetic Screening Team. He says, would you be willing to come in and talk to me about your water and what you're doing with water? I did some tests on it myself, and I found out some really amazing things. And I said, yes, I will. I'll be totally open to that. I come in a couple days later. I go into his office. He says, you see that device over there? That device costs basically $4,000. It changes the structure of water. It energizes water, and it changes ORP, which is oxidized reduction of potential. He goes on and on and on. He said, when I tested your water energetically, he said, your water is like at an 80. That device, I get about a 60 out of it. And he says, I don't know what you're doing here with this water, but you have something I feel quite special that you have tapped into. The VME, or the Vortex Magnetic Energizer, is so important because we are bringing that water back to its pristine state by putting it into a free-flowing, centripetal, interwinding vortex. What does this do to the water? The first important thing it does, it erases those vibrational contaminants. Second thing the vortex does, it brings oxygen back into the water, which is really important for what is called zeta potential. On a colloid of water, there's something we call zeta potential. This is life force energy. Oxygen plays an important role in zeta potential. This is why you see in rivers and streams and oceans too, the water is constantly doing this spiral, this spin, this dance of life. It's when it is happy, it's healthy, it's high in zeta potential, high in life force energy. So the vortex plays another role. It actually has the ability to now start breaking. Most water molecules come in groups of about 8 to 12. You can think of them as like a clumps of grapes. In nature, you see this being different. These clumps are much smaller. And because the importance of this is when the clumps are much smaller and you break them down into small hexagonal shaped molecules, they are much more easily assimilated into our cells. And as they go into the cell and into the bioplasm inside of the cell, the fluid where the glucose, the hydrogen, the oxygen come in, when it's much easier to get that into there's an oily lipid membrane around our cells. So if there's big clumps, it has a hard time coming through that. And the second part of it, when it goes into the cytoplasm of the cell, and it starts to get sucked into the electron transport chain into the mitochondria of our cells, which have little micro pumps. If that water molecules are much smaller and they're energized, this is the big part of creating ATP, adenosine triphosphate. This is one of the number one forms of how we generate energy in our body. Water, hydrogen, glucose, and oxygen play a huge role in all that, how much we can get into the cell. It's also, the vortex has ability of the expansion and the contraction of what happens in a vortex starts changing and stretching the water molecule, where it actually starts freeing up the hydrogen. The covalent bond between the hydrogen and the oxygen start changing that angle, that covalent bond angle changes. This allows the hydrogen, which is the key to hydration, to be more bioavailable in our bodies. We can drink all the water in the world, which a lot of people are drinking plenty of water, but they're not getting hydrated. Part of the vortexing energy and the vortexing of water plays an important role in this aspect of hydration. We also change, the vortexing action has the ability to bring the water's pH back into balance if it's out of balance too much. In my research, we don't want this high alkaline water. This water that's 9-10 pH that's coming from these ionizing machines. We want it in more of a 7.5. The vortexing action has that ability. You can take and put like a bunch of vinegar into one of my water systems and turn the vortex system on and recirculate it, and that acidic water will come back into balance. So the vortex plays a role in the area of ORP, oxidized reduction potential. Whenever electron counts go up, basically, which we want, high electrons in our water, ORP, oxidized reduction potential, goes down. Most bottled water, the ORP is in the positive range, the plus range. the electron counts are low because it's been sitting stagnant in that plastic bottle. So when we have the VME, we can take bottled water that's been sitting stagnant or tap water that's coming out of our tap, and we can take the VME, we can fill it up, we can vortex it 4 times, and we now change all of these properties of oxygen levels, ORP going lower, electron counts going up, pH coming more back into balance. And now you combine also the power of the vortex. When you put magnetic fields right at the eye of the vortex, where the vortex goes from centripetal movement, which is imploding the yin energy, and right where it comes out of the tip of that, which is right in the middle of the VME, we have this arrangement of high-powered magnets and a 4-way pattern. So, the magnetic effect that magnets have, which are, they go into changing the, also the molecular structure of the water. They change the energy of the water. We are electromagnetic beings. All healthy life depends on magnetism to thrive. And most of our water is depleted of this magnetism. So this is where the magnetic properties, so magnets put out an electron spin. A North Pole magnet will put out a counterclockwise electron spin. South Pole magnet puts out a clockwise electron spin. When you start spinning these electrons out of the array of magnets through the water coming down, going into this centripetal force, and where it comes out of the tip, it goes into centrifugal. That's the expansion. That's the 0 point. That's the key area where we want to program our water, because the water is wide open to say, give me what you want to give me. And that vortex has amazing ability to erase and drop all of the memory that we don't want in the water. Magnets also play a role on this, of erasing those vibrational contaminants that we want to get out of the water. So the combination of the magnets, the vortex, and now we'll talk a little bit about the rings. Why do we put these rings in here? Well, Slim Sperling is the one who first came up with making these rings. He started this work 25 years ago. He worked on this for years. I was guided to learn about the rings, and I went and met Slim, and he actually taught me how to make these rings. And I bought several of them from him. I gave them to many of my intuitive friends, and I played with them myself. And every one of them, when I went back and asked them, what did you see from this? Every one of my friends said, everybody needs one of these rings. Everybody needs one of these over their faucet, over their shower. Just running water through these rings alone is just a magical, phenomenal thing. And you would think, how can this little copper ring do this? It does it. It is real. And when you combine the rings with the magnetic field and the vortexing energy, these are the most powerful 3 ways to transform our water. And this is from me doing 20 years of research in water and testing all kinds of different gadgets and devices out there in the water world. Many of them, they work, but they're not nearly worth their money. And I don't like to get into comparing things, but I know beyond a doubt the most powerful, simple way to transform your water is with a VME.